Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Juan's World, and I'm sort of going to do some cooking today, and I'm sort of going to continue my topic that I've been harping on about for the past week, which is that you learn how to be good at something, or you learn that you are no good at something because other people tell you. It's not from within, it comes from without. And so what I'm going to do is try to challenge that in a specific way today. That's why it's called You Can Do It. And I'm going to look at the dish that I showed you, I think, Friday, called mie sapi, which is a dish from Kuching in Sarawak, which is part of Malaysia. So I suppose you can call it Malay cooking, and there's versions of it throughout Malaysia and Indonesia. It's, in English, beef noodle, and it can come in many forms. It can be some noodles and some beef, and that's it, dry, or it can come with some broth with it, or it can come accompanied with broth, usually accompanied with some kind of condiments. And very simple dish in some ways, so it should be very easy to make. And it's a breakfast dish, and so when I stayed for a month in Sarawak, of which about, I think, a week or so, maybe 10 days I spent off and on in Kuching, I pretty much always had something of the sort for breakfast. It's a version of what they also call in all of Asia soup noodles, of enormous variety. There's pho in Vietnam, you can get egg noodles, cellophane noodles. There's a version of it in my intro that you'll see in a minute or so, all over. And the point of this video, though, is to say this looks like a delicious dish that you have to go to a restaurant for, but you don't have to. You can make it yourself. Now, it won't look like a restaurant version, and there may be a restaurant version that is a particular favorite of yours that you happen to like that you can't replicate at home. Fine. I feel the same way about noodles here in Cambodia. There are stocks that are simmering in the marketplaces here that have been simmering for, I don't know, a century, for a very, very long time, and I can't replicate them. And so once in a while I'll go and have them, but otherwise I make my soup noodles at home. So let's get started. Now, with all soup noodle dishes, the key is the broth. And that's where I'm going to start. Now, I'm going to be showing you short video clips whilst I'm talking. I'm going to be showing you some still images and so forth. I'm not walking you through this in quite the same way as your celebrity TV chef would do, with fine camera work and scripted recipes and all that kind of thing. I'm going to talk to you like I would talk to you if I was in your house right now and I said, let's go ahead and make mie sapi soup noodles, or beef noodles I should say. Mie means noodles, sapi means beef, and interestingly, something like mie is a fairly common cognate for noodles throughout Asian languages. It's used in Khmer language that I speak, In Chinese, it's mian, which you will all know from the Chinese fried noodles. Chow is fried, so jiao mian, or in English they say chow mein, right? But it's mian. Universal, and it's my comfort food. I mean, I love soup noodles. So the thing that is the key to everything is the broth. And there's the secret that I'm going to tell you, is that a lot of people cheat. A lot of home cooks cheat, and a lot of commercial cooks cheat. They have either a paste or a powder that they boil up in some water, and there's their stock. As even Anthony Bourdain, I remember him, I think it was in his book Chef Confidential, in which he says that when he was a student at, I think it was the Culinary Institute of America, where they had to make broth, and that meant they had to like roast some bones and then put them in water with various seasonings like garlic and shallots and whatnot, and poach and poach and poach until they had a nice rich broth. And he used to use bouillon cubes. I mean, they were not allowed. He would have been hung, drawn and quartered if he'd shown them, but he used to use them. And that's because they have artificial flavors in them that are just, richer than you can make by hand with bones and caramelized vegetables and so forth. I mean, you make it very good eventually, but bouillon cubes just like up the game quickly. They've got monosodium glutamate in them. They've got some form of caramel in them. Who knows? I don't even know all the things they've got in them. I have in my kitchen all kinds of soup stocks that have already been prepared. I have one for what's called Vietnamese boat noodles. I have one for pho. Now, pho is very hard to make. You have to char bones and garlic over a hot propane flame and blah blah blah. It takes a long time. It's just a lot easier to get out your jar of beef paste and put it in boiling water, but there you are. You've got it ready to go. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about here. It's like how to cook well, but also how to cut corners. How to be a home cook, not how to be a chef. I'm not a chef. Don't want to be a chef. Not interested. I won't make the same dish twice because I can't. Because each time I make it, it's different. But I use stocks, stock cubes, stock pastes, so whatever. So let's start with the beef broth. Now here it is. Looks pretty nice, right? And I did make it with beef bones, yeah, and some scallions, which I had just fried and colored a little bit, garlic, and the main ingredients to make it, I guess you'd call it Malay, but I mean, it's like Malay Chinese, I guess. You need star anise, cardamom, black peppercorns, and in Sarawak, of course, there would be Sarawak black peppercorns, cinnamon stick, ginger, fresh ginger, garlic, chopped shallots, and putting them all in to simmer over and over and over for maybe, in this case, I think I simmered the whole broth for about 4 hours. And I used beef in the broth. I used the beef bones, which were part of what was giving it the intense flavor. But I also used what's called skirt steak. Now, in Cambodia, there are two kinds of beef you can get. You can get local beef, which is always tough, not well prepared, and not the best cuts. I mean, like sometimes you can get steak, sirloin or whatnot, but they're not very well butchered. They're not very well prepared. Or you can get Australian beef, which is much better prepared, but super expensive. I mean, like the difference between half a kilo of local beef and half a kilo of Australian beef would be, let's see, half a kilo of local beef would be about $5. Australian beef would be about $20. So I go for the $5, and that means that I'm going to get tough beef, and that means I'm going to have to cook it for a very long time. And that's okay with beef. Cook it in the broth for 2, 3, 4 hours, no problem. Slice it kind of thin, and just simmer and simmer and simmer. So this is where I would be with you in your house or in your apartment, and I would say, okay, like put all these ingredients together and just let them simmer. But every 20 minutes or so, taste. And if it's too this or to that, then you have to add something. Now here is where, unfortunately, I can't help you unless I'm right there in the kitchen with you, and I can say, I think this it's not spicy enough. Maybe you should add a little bit of chili, or maybe we need some sweet spices. Oh, cloves! You haven't added cloves. Let's try that. Allspice. Let's try that. Although allspice is not a common spice in this part of the world. Cloves are. Didn't mention them earlier, so I maybe missed them out. Oh, MSG. Okay, now people are going to get all explosive and say, oh, it's all bad for you and so forth. And we've talked about this before. MSG, monosodium glutamate, exists in a variety of natural foods like seaweed, tomatoes, mushrooms. To me, it's as stupid to be upset about MSG as it is to be upset about salt. That is, you can be upset about having too much salt, so you can be upset about having too much MSG. But a pinch here and a pinch there is okay. So the broth is your fundamental component, and cooking your beef slowly is the essence. Now, meanwhile, I like to have crispy fried shallots as a garnish for my beef noodles. So here's some shallots. Now again, in Europe or in the United States, it might not be so easy, or shallots may be expensive. Here, they're very cheap. They're as cheap as onions and as common as onions, and I use them in preference because they've got a much more intense flavor. And what I've done is I've peeled them and sliced them thinly and put them in some peanut or some, I don't know what, some kind of vegetable oil, some kind of non-flavored oil at a medium heat, and I'm going to just slowly deep fry them until they are golden. Then I'm going to take them out, put them on paper towels to drain off the oil, and that's going to be one of my garnishes. So now we have to turn ourselves to the noodles. And again, if you're living in Malaya or anywhere in Southeast Asia, you've got a huge choice of noodles. But I'm trying to keep things simple, so what I've got here are instant noodles. Instant noodles come in packs with some kind of flavoring. Could be tom yum sometimes, it could be just chicken or what have you. But I'm not interested in the flavor packets. I save them for dumping into my stock pot at some point or another. I just want the noodles. So I'll take the noodles out. I've got my stock on a simmer. I'm going to put in my instant noodles. I just want to crank them around. It's going to take me a minute or so. They're going to soften up and they're going to be ready to serve. And so now we need to put it all together. And that means we're going to first of all take out the noodles and put them in a bowl. Take out the beef that has been simmering long time, put it on top. Add the shallots, and in this case I've also chopped up a green onion, fresh green onion, to garnish the top. And then I'm just going to add a small amount of broth. Sometimes they don't even put the broth in the noodles at all. They put it in a separate bowl and also serve some kind of condiment. It could be like hot chilies, could be some form of oyster sauce or soy sauce or some combination of them separately, so that you as the diner can decide how you want to assemble the dish. Here in Cambodia, and mostly in Sarawak too, people don't like to just dump the condiment into the dish. They like to keep it separate so that they've got the dish with all the sparkling flavors fresh inside them, and then they can dip in the condiment as necessary. And they can also, if they've got the soup separately, then they can also drink the soup separately. It's a matter of diner's choice. But here's what I keep wanting to drill in. You can do this. You don't need to say, well, I can't cook. All right, I understand. I can't be right beside you. But I can encourage you by saying, yes, you can cook. Now, first time you try this, probably not going to be very good. There's going to be something wrong with the broth, probably. Maybe it's not to your taste. Although, if you do what I say, if you taste it every 20 minutes and keep adjusting, then it'll probably get better and better. Or if the worst comes to the worst and you just you just use a commercial paste or a cube, then it'll be fine. I mean, it won't be great, but it'll be fine. And at minimum, it can be the base of something that you add to. You know, you add your star anise and your cardamom pods and your coriander seeds and whatever. And it takes time. That's the essence of it all. First time, maybe it's a disaster, or maybe it's sort of like, oh, okay, but not great. Do it again. Then do it again. Then do it again. Then do it again. I've been making some form of soup noodles for 50 years. And I've made all different kinds, and some I've liked and some not really liked. Some have been just okay. But I store it away. Now, I also understand that when it comes right down to it, like, some of you don't care. That's all right too. It's like me with drawing. I talked last time about how I'm not very good at freehand drawing. I'm not bad. I'm not as good as I could be because I don't really care about it. It's not something that's really important to me. It's not something that I want to do every single day. I want to write every day, I have to cook every day. I have to do all kinds of things every day. And what I'm really good at are the things that I care about. But that's a whole different topic. That's something I talked about 2 years ago when we talked about vocation, not vacation, although vacation matters too. Vocation, like what you care about. Like, what do you really care about? Why don't you care about cooking? I've got friends. I was talking to a couple of friends just recently about cooking, and they were saying, yeah, I don't care. I can make rice in the morning, but I go out and I buy things. Well, okay, that's your choice. If you're happy with going to a shop or a restaurant and getting your food, fine. I'm not. I really love cooking, and so I spend a certain percentage of my day every single day getting what I want. And not always a gourmet meal. And the thing I'm trying to also mention here is that we're not talking about restaurant quality food, because restaurants have certain expectations because they're money-making enterprises. Your kitchen at home is not a money-making enterprise. It's a place where you're providing food for yourself in a way that comforts you. So you can do it. All right, please, if you like this video, tell your friends, please like and subscribe. And I'll be back on Friday with, I have no idea what my topic will be, but we're getting into the Pentecost season. Thursday will be Ascension Thursday, and we're in what's called the Rogation Days right now. So we're getting closer and closer and closer to Pentecost, and I maybe talk about that on Friday. Have a wonderful week.